Doesn't seem too bad. It rained at our place.
Are we streaming?
Last night.
Okie dokie. Y'all ready? Should we get started? Ramon's not coming and Sarah will be late, which I'll say out loud. And Carmen will be blowing her nose. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is August 13th. This is the Santa Fe Public Schools Board of Education meeting. We will start with our Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the New Mexico flag in English and in Spanish, as well as our acknowledgement of tribal land. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Juro fidelidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico as the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Saludo la bandera del Estado de Nuevo México, el simbología de amistad perfecta entre culturas unidas. We acknowledge that our Board of Education meeting is taking place on occupied Indigenous land. We acknowledge the Tesuque Pueblo lands and other tribal lands on which we stand. We honor these people, past, present, and future. We acknowledge the history and ongoing colonization of where we are sitting right now in New Mexico and in our country. We acknowledge our own place in the story of colonization. Thank you very much. We move on to approval of the agendas. Any changes, Superintendent?
Board President Noble, there are no changes.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move approval of the agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. This is not where we do a roll call. Okay, all those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or otherwise? Okay, we've approved the agenda. Moving on to our executive session. Dr. Gonzalez.
I'd like to move us into executive session where we will be discussing threatened or pending litigation, NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1H7, and threatened or pending litigation, NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1H7, Martinez versus State of New Mexico et al. D-101-CV-201 4-00793 consolidated with Yazzie versus State of New Mexico et al. D-101-CB-2014-02224.
There's a motion.
I'll move. I'll second.
There's motion and a second. We'll go ahead and do a roll call on going into executive session. Board Member Blea.
In favor? Aye.
Secretary Gonzalez.
Yes.
And the President, I also vote yes. So we will be in executive session until around about 5:30.
this evening. Roger? Here, I'm turning off that. I just want to make sure I want to see it on.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and come back from executive session. Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes, I'd like to move us out of executive session where we discuss threatened or pending litigation, NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1-H-7, and threatened or pending litigation, NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1H7, Martinez versus State of New Mexico et al., D-101-CV-2014-00793, consolidated with Yazzie versus State of New Mexico et al., D-101-CV-2014-02224.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll go ahead and do our roll call vote out of executive session. Board Member Blaya,
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Vice President Bozay,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. Okay, moving on to Roman numeral 3, introduction of interpreter.
Thank you, Board President. Mr. Pastrana, will you please introduce our interpreter?
Buenas tardes, es un placer presentar a Gidel Ruiz Bravo, nuestro traductor para el año escolar 2026-27. Si alguien requiere traducción, pueden acercarse a él o dejarnos saber.
Thank you very much. Moving on to public forum. Mr. Beta.
Board President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Griffin, we do not have any speakers, in-house speakers, or online as well, virtual.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone here who wanted to address the board and didn't get a chance to sign up? Okay, we will go ahead and move on to our union update. Welcome. I really think we should take out that last row of seats. Yeah, the front one, because it's you got to go around. Okay, come on down. There we go. Welcome.
Superintendent Griffin, President Noble, members of the board and community. I am Christy Krennick. I am the new NEA president. I am actually starting my 27th year in education, 25th here in Santa Fe. My role is the instructional coach at Milagro Middle School. And I wanted to share our union update. And it's really of the work that we did this summer. As you heard at the last meeting, we were able to close collective bargaining. We spent over 80 hours in that session, touching 10 articles, and we're just extremely proud of the commitment with the union and the district to come together to make things better for our students at the end of the day. Also this summer, we attended hiring events and we were able to get over 40 new members to the union, which we are very excited about. And then our ongoing advocacy over the summer, we were able to support over 30 members from little things to big things, and just it's the union doesn't take off during that break. And finally, committee meetings were still going on in the district, so we had people on the code of conduct, the community review committee, sick leave bank, and all that, and we continue to represent on those as well. So that is our union update for the beginning of the school year. We look forward to celebrating all the fabulous things. On one positive note of many, I have heard the first day of school was very smooth this year, and kids were welcomed back and happy and excited, and so were families. So thank you everyone for your hard work, especially our members. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks to all of our educators throughout the district in the NEA Santa Fe, our other union, and beyond. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to board announcements and follow-up. Are there any board announcements and follow-up? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to superintendent announcements and follow-up. Dr. Griffin.
Thank you, President Noble, board members. I have several positive updates tonight that really demonstrate the work happening across Santa Fe Public Schools to support our students, families, and staff as we begin the new school year. The first annual Community Schools Conference. I'm excited to announce that Santa Fe Public Schools will host our first annual Community Schools Family Conference on Saturday, August 22nd from 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. at Milagro Middle School. Led by Milagro Community School Coordinator Diana Padilla and our community schools team, the conference will offer short sessions connecting families with resources and information from across the district. Our community schools model brings schools, families, community partners together to remove barriers, connect families with resources, and create the conditions for students to thrive in both inside and outside of school. The event includes free childcare for children ages 4 through 12, Spanish interpretation, lunch, and door prizes. All Santa Fe Public School parents and guardians are invited to attend. This is one of the many ways we are strengthening our partnerships between our schools and families. Chaparral Elementary. I want to recognize our operations department and Chaparral Elementary School's leadership team for an extraordinary amount of work completed in a very short summer. The team replaced the aging HVAC equipment in the East Wing, installed 6 portable classrooms, renovated spaces to bring the 2 school communities together, installed new furniture, and prepared the entire campus to welcome students on the first day. This was a significant undertaking, and I am grateful to everyone who worked behind the scenes to make sure students and staff had a welcoming and functional school environment on day one. This next one's pretty cool, Capshaw Thrift. Another great example of both sustainability and responsible stewardship was our first annual Capshaw Thrift event. Our sustainability department invited teachers to our storage facility at the former Capshaw building to select furniture and materials that could be reused in their classrooms. Over 100 staff members participated and 421 items were claimed and put back into use. It was good for our teachers and also good for the environment. We $500,000 for the Adelante program. I'm also pleased to share that our Adelante program has been awarded $500,000 from the New Mexico Department of Workforce Solutions to continue the Family Stabilization Project. This funding will support McKinney-Vento students and families experiencing housing instability by providing targeted emergency housing assistance while connecting families with financial education and supporting consistent student attendance. This is an important investment in family stability and keeping our students connected to our schools and learning. A quick early literacy update. I want to provide a brief update regarding Amira and our early literacy assessments. We are grateful to the New Mexico Public Education Department for listening to district and families and providing districts with the opportunity to select an alternative assessment that meets the state requirements. Santa Fe Public Schools has chosen to use DIBELS as our alternative assessment, a tool many of our K-2 teachers are already familiar with and have experience using. This allows us to maintain strong early literacy assessment practices while building on the expertise already in our classrooms. We have also received a certificate of the deletion from the Amira, a certificate of deletion from Amira, confirming that student voice recording data and associated backups have been purged. We appreciate PED's partnership and responsiveness in providing districts with flexibility while continuing to ensure that we have a meaningful opportunity to collect information that supports early literacy instruction. High school enrollment and scheduling. I want to acknowledge that we've heard from some of our high school families who are frustrated with scheduling, and we understand how important student schedules are for their success. Students are currently submitting schedule change requests through an online form, and counselors and administrators are working through each of those requests while prioritizing the most urgent needs, such as graduation requirements and incorrect course placements. At the same time, they are enrolling new students and balancing class sizes and as enrollment stabilizes. This process typically takes the first 10 days of school. If there are any concerns that still remain after that time, schools will work individually with students and families to explore additional options. We appreciate our families' patience and school teams who are working to get every student settled and ready to learn. And last and finally, our kindergarten students started school this Tuesday, and it has been wonderful to welcome our youngest learners. We currently have 635 kindergarten students enrolled, compared with the 667 last year and the 760 from the year before. Registration is still occurring, so we will continue watching those numbers carefully. Our responsibility now is to make sure that our staffing is aligned with where our students are while maintaining appropriate class sizes to support our kindergarten classrooms. Following our 10-day enrollment count, I will bring the board with more complete district-wide enrollment update at our next meeting. These updates represent a tremendous amount of work across our district, from classrooms and schools to student data, operations, sustainability, community schools, student wellness, and educational services. I want to thank our staff for the work that they've done to get our students and families ready for a strong start to the 26-27 school year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything from the board on superintendent announcements? I don't know if you have this information to hand, but I'm wondering any updates on our vacancies and where we are, and if that might be something we could just have for a little while.
I will absolutely bring that to the next board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Board Member Blaya.
Thank you, President Noble. And this question is for, because I don't know, so I know, so Board Member Bose and I attended a New Mexico Children's Roadmap event held by the New Mexico Voices for Children. I was at the Children's Museum the other day. And so they talked a lot about community schools. Is that the same thing that we talked about in the Milagro update? I mean, when you talked about Milagro?
Thank you, President Noble, Board Member Blaya. Yes, that is exactly what we were talking about. It's the first time that we're getting all of our community schools together in one place and really bringing the families together to celebrate all the different partnerships and really give them all of the resources in one place.
Cool, thank you.
If I may, I think there is a little bit of a distinction, which is we have communities in schools that do some of our community schools work, and then we have our own community schools still, right? And Voices and the Kellogg Foundation at that event will be talking about sort of the concept of community schools. Go ahead.
So President Noble, then are communities and schools included in that, or just the community schools?
This event is for community schools, specifically, yes. Some of our community schools have also communities in schools as well.
I know that. It seemed to me like it should be a joint.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on. Thank you, Superintendent, to our presentations, and we will start with safety and security.
Good evening, Board President Noble, members of the board, and Dr. Griffin. I'm stepping in a little bit this evening because Director Grunler is out for a family emergency. So our Assistant Director, Victor Quintana, and I will be presenting this for you today. Come on down, Victor.
Cool. So with the Safety and Security Department, our department is dedicated to providing the safe and secure, peaceful learning environment for our children and our staff. Our team is quite large, for some departments, but to us, it seems like it's sometimes not enough. But it consists of TJ Grundler, the new Director of Safety and Security, myself, Assistant Director, Victor Quintana, our Safety Aid Supervisor, Craig Ernst, or Donald, our Safety and Security Program Coordinator, Libby Loki. She's in the audience as well. And with our site-based safety aids, we have our main focus for the K through 8s is for the secondary students. So if you see it on the list up there, it's usually one safety aid per school. And then with the high schools, we have one lead safety aid at Capitol High School with 5 safety aids under him. We also have one at Santa Fe High, a lead safety aid, and we currently have 8 positions available for the school. And at Milagro, we have 1 lead safety aid and 2 safety aids under him. Yeah, and also right now, we're in the middle of transitioning our safety aid supervisor, which is currently located at Milagro, to assist at Ortiz Middle School. So yeah, we're just relocating him to there so it'll be more centralized for the responding to different schools.
I want to highlight one of the strengths of our program is that our safety aides are embedded at the sites and they truly are part of the staff. If you were to walk onto any of these campuses, you would see safety aides interacting with students. So they're not only perceived as a gotcha figure, but they also are a source of support. So students know that they can go to the safety aide if there is a concern, and they help to coordinate with administration. So when we look at the work that falls under safety and security, there's a great deal that they do, both in terms of preparedness and supporting our sites. So there's preparedness for emergencies, and that includes things like training staff and administrators. There's drill management, and those are outlined by PED and the requirements. There's emergency response, and then also tabletop scenarios, and this is something that we started this year. Our first tabletop scenario was district leadership working with safety and security and walking through a what-if scenario so that everyone understood the different roles and how we would all interact to make sure that we were being responsive to our sites. Additionally, our safety and security team, they provide resources to our sites and they ensure that the sites are up to date and in compliance. This includes emergency bags and buckets, the flip charts that are in classrooms and offices, signage, cameras, and then safety aids as well. Additionally, NMPED requires school safety plans that must be submitted, and there's some strict criteria. They're scored with a rubric. Our safety and security department, they support sites with that, with gathering information, but also ensuring that the safety plans meet the appropriate criteria and that they are in compliance with PED. And lastly, in that umbrella is the incident command training that is required, and that's FEMA training that is coordinated through our safety and security, and they ensure compliance with that. And then we also have safety responsiveness. See something, say something. That's an anonymous tip reporting platform. And so site administrators have access to the reports that come in, but our safety department does as well, and that helps to ensure responsiveness. Raptor, which is a visitor login system, and it's also a way that we are tracking our drills and communicating our drills. And then our director, Grundler, he serves as a main liaison between law enforcement and the district if there is some sort of emergency in our community. So some of the current and anticipated projects, we have the automated external defibrillators, or AEDs. There's been a requirement to expand the availability of these. And so our safety and security department, they've been working closely with Myrna and Sue to ensure that we have those and that we have staff trained in how to use them. We have an audit coming up for our systems. There is an existing audit, but we want to do a second audit and just compare our data to identify our strengths and then also our areas of weakness. There are 23 cameras that are outdated and not up to industry standards, so we're looking at replacing those. There's additionally safety audits that happen at the school sites. And there's also kind of drop-in audits of what will staff do if there's someone walking on their campus without a visitor badge. We want to make sure that our students are safe. We also will be looking at the red emergency buckets and bags to make sure that everything is filled properly and resupplied. There's also the Stop the Bleed kits that need to be audited as well. Refining our systems for the rapid response emergency management, and then also major event response. And like any good department, we're going to continue to engage in reflection and improvement. There is increased oversight in just the structure of our district and our safety and security. So any proposed camera or door access expansion requests must go to our executive leadership team. Our executive leadership team, or ELT, we meet each Monday, so any requests will be reviewed and then either approved or denied. And that is tracked with an internal tracking document. We have weekly meetings between myself and TJ Grunler. And then we also have a designated assistant superintendent, Josh Ryan, who works closely with safety and security. And he's a point person for a principal if they encounter a problem and they're like, I need to talk this through with someone. So instead of having variation amongst the response of the assistant superintendents, there's one consistent person there to support them alongside TJ and the team. And so now we would like to stand for any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Deputy Superintendent and Assistant Director Quintana. Questions from the board? Go ahead, Board Member Blaya.
Thank you, President Noble. So on page 4, the fourth bullet under emergency preparedness, I mean, without getting into the details, obviously, but do the tabletop scenarios cover both disaster recovery and cyber?
They haven't yet, but we could look at expanding that, and then we would expand, obviously, the audience and the participants.
Cool, thank you.
Vice President Bose.
Thank you, President Noble. Thanks so much for this presentation. I really first want to highlight what you said about our safety aides being embedded employees. For folks might remember that used to be a contract that we worked outside of the district, and it was really an intentional change to transition those folks to helping build stronger school communities. I'm pretty sure we also saved some money. That's obviously a bonus, but having people that live in our communities, that are neighbors, that students might feel more comfortable with, I think is just an incredible model. So I really appreciate that. On page 3, I'm just noticing the differences between the staffing at the high schools, and I'm curious, you said there's 8 positions available. I'm assuming you said it that way because they aren't all filled right now.
Yes, correct.
Okay. So the difference between Capitol and Santa Fe High, are the differences between 5 and 8 based on campus size or the layout of the campus or student enrollment?
It's for both, yeah.
Okay.
So as far as the Capitol, it's one building primarily. You have a couple portables in the property, but with Santa Fe High, you have such a large footprint that the same amount of safety aids wouldn't be able to cover the same amount
Okay.
as Capitol.
Okay. That was my guess, knowing what I know about those campuses. And then my last question is, can you sort of, like, I appreciate knowing what the roles and responsibilities are, but I'm curious what like an average day could look like for a high school safety aide.
So, I mean, pretty much it starts just with greeting the children when they get dropped off in the mornings. And we kind of get them to class, and then we start making sure everything is secure around the campus. Locking external gates, making that one point of entry. checking for prop doors, and then usually by the time you get one round done, you're issuing out the kids for second period. And once you're out there, you're just basically just keeping an eye on the kids, keeping them safe, and then you kind of push them back to class, make sure everybody's there. For lunchtime, same thing. You have the seniors that will leave for senior break or senior lunch. So you're always screening them, making sure they're not sneaking anybody else off, and then getting them back onto campus as well once they're coming back on, greeting them and everything else. And then towards the end of the day, it's just making sure that their parents are picking them up as safely as possible without any injuries.
Great.
Might
Uh,
I add one more
yeah,
thing,
yeah,
which
yeah.
I think from my prior work was maybe the most important, is someone filtering who's coming on and off our campus. There's young people that may look like students that are not students. And so when people are trying to come on, there's a safety aide at the gate, checking that individual, conferring with the front office to ensure that they are actually a student. Similarly, if someone says, hey, I'm here to get Susie, they check with the office to make sure, is this person really allowed to pick Susie up? So that then we don't just have strangers roaming our campuses.
Right. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I think, um, I'm asking as a board member, but also as a parent of two high school kids, who have had challenges around bathroom usage at Santa Fe High. Primarily the bathrooms being locked, because there was vandalism happening. And if we can't protect them in the bathroom, then let's just lock the bathrooms. So I just, I'm curious if there are any updates around that, in the last few months.
Yeah, I believe, and Victor, you can confirm that our safety aides, they do rounds where they check. Obviously, before going into a restroom, they'll open the door. A male guard would check the male restrooms, female guard or administrator restroom, announce, hey, staff,
Mhm.
go in. They check to make sure that it's in good repair. If it isn't, then they communicate with administrators and then they can follow up to try and see, like, who the heck ripped a toilet seat off of a toilet? And then address that individual instead of being punitive against people who are just trying to use the restroom.
Thank you. Appreciate that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to reiterate what Vice President Bozé said, and I've loved the embedded safety aid. I think it's been a real improvement in our system from when we had contractors doing that work, and it's been great. And I really appreciate this. I am incredibly grateful that we haven't had the urgency that has happened a number of times during my service on this board of a safety presentation and or study session, so knock on wood, that's where we are. But of course, preparedness is really important, and having everybody continue to have a certain amount of vigilance around this is really the key. A couple questions. How are we promulgating, this is also my view of the most important part of our security is the see something, say something, and using the human intelligence and eyes that we have on every school campus. How is that being promulgated, disseminated? How are staff and students being brought into the See Something, Say Something program?
So there are posters all around the campuses, as well as when there's the freshman jumpstart. The site administrators, they speak specifically to that as they're onboarding new students. And then the beginning of each year, administrators and teachers are required to do safety presentations with students, and the See Something, Say Something is part of that. So not only do they go over the drills of, remember when there's a fire drill, this is what you should do. They share this as a resource. Students do have access to it on their Chromebooks. So it is on the dashboard when they log in.
And how about for district staff? Is this part of onboarding training? I mean, sometimes people are like, I don't know if I should say something, and I'm hoping we're getting it out there when staff are brought on in the Santa Fe Public Schools that,
I don't know if it's part of onboarding, but I do know that staff have access to it on their dashboard as well.
And just to speak on that as well, we worked last year with student wellness, and we put up extra posters that they created and kind of modified to fit the district a little bit. And it includes a QR code that's posted. So even if they don't have access to their Chromebook at the time, just a quick scan with their phone will also get them to the app.
Great. I do think keeping it visible posters are really big. That was very big in New York City after particularly September 11th. There was a lot of everywhere on the subway, see something, say something, that sort of thing. Okay, moving on to, I guess, current and anticipated projects or maybe even just our plans. Are we contemplating and are we thinking about any sort of immigration raids and liaising with the city at all? There's been an uptick of ICE activity in this community, and I'm wondering if that is part of our safety and security thinking.
It is, however, I would say that particular situation is far greater than just a safety and security. So we do have protocol. Josh Granata, Krista Libara and her department, alongside Dr. Griffin, we've done presentations to staff on very specific reporting and coordination, where certain instances Josh Granata would not be looped in if an administrator were to suspect that there were ICE on campus. Immediately, like, everyone is looped in on that.
Thank you, and I'm sure it's sort of like any sort of outside entity, person trying to gain access to a campus, and I know that our protocol was basically to call the attorney and to call the superintendent in that, and I just appreciate that. And for what it's worth, would say a conversation with city police. I know there's a lot of interface with city police on just any thoughts and interface that they would want to have a conversation. I think we probably need to do that every so often to just be in conversation with our police force. Okay, and I am glad, just to say, I guess it's on page 6, increased oversight, all proposed camera and door access expansion requests reviewed by the executive leadership team. Ultimately, superintendent, the decisions lie with you. That I would imagine remains our structure, and ELT approval is, however that works, that is for your vetting and just knowing that buck stops with you. I guess I will say, we have seen more and more cameras. I think we're very clear they don't go in classrooms or in bathrooms. That's correct?
Correct.
Thank you. And as we look at cameras, Superintendent, I know that you've heard this, but I will just say publicly that my strong hope is that we are thinking about what they are for, which to me is safety and security. It is not anything else, including, disciplinary monitoring or whatever it may be, that, we need to, especially as this issue of the surveillance state in lots of ways comes up, we need to be very, very clear about our purpose and what we're looking at and why. So that is my great hope there, and including with the replacement cameras. I really would hope we don't just have an assumption that if a camera's been there before that it needs to be there, that we are constantly bringing that critical thinking aspect of, does this need to be here and why and what's it for and who's looking at it and for what and all of those things. So thank you very much. I'll leave it there. Anything else from the board? Appreciate it. We appreciate the update, and please keep them coming.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our Infrastructure Capital Improvement Plan, ICIP, for capital outlay.
It's me again.
Welcome back.
So Board President Noble, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Griffin, this next presentation is going to go into a tremendous amount of work that Gabe and Jean have been endeavoring in the past few months. They're going to go over the Infrastructure Capital Improvement Plan with you, which is a new thing for public entities, and they will give you all of the details, and then at the end we'll accept questions.
Superintendent, Board President, board members, thank you for being with us this evening. I know you're looking forward to an update on this new process called ICIP plan. Infrastructure Capital Improvement Plan. And it is brand new for us. Previously, capital outlay was decided by the legislature through an internal process that was not, not very, I guess, transparent, but not without a process itself. But what they did provide us with was something that was very comprehensive, we'll just put it that way. It does take, as Gene will talk about in a moment, there's quite a bit to it. So this process will be used through fiscal year 27 to 2032, so it's going to be here for a little while. It applies to several governmental entities, tribal entities, and to public schools. And it's important to understand by submitting these ICIP projects, it's not a guarantee that the project will be funded, but it is the start. And if it's not submitted, then it won't be considered later. So it's important to consider those. Also, it is for projects that are over $100,000. So projects less than that, I guess there will be a different process perhaps that we did in the past. So with that, I'd like to ask Mr. Gene Bostwick, our Director of Construction, to talk about the process.
Thank you, Gabe. President Noble, board members, superintendent, thank you for having us here this evening. As Gabe said, it's a process. We've been working on this for a few months. We were fortunate that in working with the superintendent and deputy superintendents that we were able to bring this down to not a huge number of projects, because I think we would have had to hire a whole new staff to take this on. The state basically has put together, Department of Finance Administration has put together an entire package that you need to submit piece by piece by piece in order to get your project into the queue, as it were, to be considered for potential funding by the legislature. As Gabe said, it's not an absolute thing, but it gets you in the hopper, right? So, yep. The kind of information that they require is pretty detailed in lots and lots of different ways. Of course, you have to start with a very descriptive understanding of the project, what it's about, and various parts of it and components of it. You get pretty into the weeds with that. Project location, of course, is pretty simple in our case because we're doing this on all of our different campuses, wherever the particular project is. Budget information is another one where it's not just giving them a number, it's taking that number and breaking it down into many little parts that they can look at and say, okay, what are you going to spend on the design concept part for this? What are you going to spend on the plans? What are you going to spend even to get that project to bid? And then there's the actual work and how that work breaks into pieces. Are there components to that, like furnishings and other things? All those things have to be broken apart. You have to put numbers on all of them. You have to make sure your math adds up, which is probably a good thing. And when you kind of get the sense when you're putting all this in, that it gives them an opportunity to look at a project and say, well, we can't afford to fund maybe $5 million on this project, but we could pick this section and we could help you fund that. I think that's a lot of where they're going and why they tended to put this together the way they did. Time milestones is also very important, as Gabe mentioned. You know, they're looking at projects that are going to go over a number of years. This first round, this is the first round for us to do this process, would probably not see any actual money back to the district until 2028, is what we're being told. That doesn't mean we have to wait until 2028 to do the projects. Once they would be approved and funded, there's a window there to get a lot of work done before you actually get the money back from the state and a capital outlay. So timeline is very important. Again, you have to have a lot of detail. There's a big part of this where you need to make them understand or help them understand why this project is important for them to consider funding. It's their justification, basically, where you have to talk about who's impacted by this, how many people are impacted by this, is it a short-term or a long-term impact, right? You have to look at how they would evaluate this in terms of, are there health impacts? Are there situations where this is urgent, right? where they would need to, you would need to do this right away, and then they would potentially come back and help you. We've actually had them do that on things in the past for the district, not through this process, but that's something they're familiar with. So all of those things add up to a pretty substantial submittal for each one of the projects that you want to have them consider. You know, we spent a lot of time talking with the DFA people to get a good understanding of what they thought was important and how they thought this should go together. We went through, they have about 30 hours of training videos that you can look at. I don't think we managed to get through all 30. I think that was too much even for us. But we spent a lot of time trying to understand how this was before we actually started putting this data into the program. Nice thing about the way the program works is you have all these different categories and all these different areas where you have to answer questions, become very good at writing essays. Because a lot of these questions require that type of response. Once you check them off, it tells you that, okay, you've satisfied what we want to see in this particular instance or this question, so you know you can then move on. So it does kind of give you that reinforcement that you're on the right track and that you're giving them the information that they would expect to see. In terms of timelines, we have until the 28th of August to complete all of the current projects that we've started. We're confident that we will make that. There's still quite a bit of work to do, but we've been working on this virtually every day to make sure that we will have them all done and submitted in time. Once they are submitted, the DFA has a process where they will review them. As we understand it, there's not an absolute yes or no point there, but it is an opportunity for them to look at them. They can come back to us with questions. They can come back to us and ask for editing or other sorts of things. If they decide that it's a project that they're going to go ahead forward with and include on their IP list, then we would have until the 1st of November to make any kinds of edits or additional changes in the particular project we're requesting. So.
So the projects that we are in the process of submitting for is additional funding for the educator staff housing, which we have happening right now, but definitely we could benefit from additional funds for that. The Capitol High School press box, we did receive some capital outlay funds for that. However, structurally, a lot more work needs to go into ensuring that that is a sturdy construction and renovation. The Capitol High School entrance reconfiguration, a daycare facility at early college opportunities, field improvements. In particular, we're looking at Acequia Madre and Kearney Elementary, and then an activity bus purchase. And so now we would like to stand for questions.
Okay, thank you all very much, Mr. Romero, Mr. Bostwick, and of course, Deputy Superintendent. Appreciate you and all that you do. Questions from the board? Okay, well, I want to say at least one thing, which is, can we please not call it a daycare facility? Could we call it early education and care? Or something that is, and we're trying to very hard in that industry
Yes.
move away from the word daycare.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Vice President Bozay.
Thank you, President Noble. I mean, I guess I'm going to share my understanding of this process change is to ensure that projects that are making it to the legislators' list for capital outlay have been vetted, and that's what this process is. And so, as we all learned in great detail during the last session, there's a lot of capital outlay money that has been unused, which is a real shame because there are lots of projects that need to get done in our state. And so this is sort of the vetting process that they've outlined. And then it will, if approved by DFA, will go on to the legislators to pick from. So I think particularly that piece around that Mr. Bostwick said of like, we'll pay for this part, like maybe that's some transparency that the legislators could, but it's still the legislators that will be picking, not DFA. um, to make sure the projects are shovel-ready, that they've been really, really well thought out and planned, that the time that projects are going to take is clear, so that, there aren't these rollovers year after year, because they're just not going to continue to allow extensions on capital outlay. So, I think that was not a question, but more of a comment, and hopefully helpful for the board in thinking about this. Do you anticipate, here's a question, do you anticipate that at our next meeting, these projects will be presented to us? Do we have dollar amounts? I guess what I'm wondering is how this changes. In years past, we will sit down and talk about our capital outlay requests. And we say, these are our priorities, here's what we're thinking, how much are we asking for? And it's sort of a conversation we have. And so I'm curious how staff and the superintendent view this changing.
Board President Noble, Vice President Bose, this is the reason, because this is such a new process and the due date is quickly approaching, this was our way to be able to share the items that we felt as a team were shovel-ready and that we would submit. This does not mean that we have to actually request these things, but we cannot request these things unless they are in the system. And I think we can bring this back after we have approval through the system in November and have the board say, definitely ask for this, this, and this. But if it's not in the system, we can't ask for it.
Right. That makes sense. And also, we can't ask for anything that's over $100,000 if it hasn't gone through this process.
Correct.
So I guess that's important information for the board to recognize and think about.
Thank you.
Do we know, I assume we get to do this every year, that even though it is a multi-year plan, that we will get to update it probably roughly at this time next year in order to have DFA vetted projects that we can then decide to ask for capital outlay from legislators for?
Board President Noble, that is unclear at this time. We don't know if this is going to be for the next 5 years until, what was it, 2032, or if we will have the opportunity to ask each year.
May I add to that? If we do have an opportunity this coming year, I do anticipate that they would move the due date up to July. The August due date is only for school districts, and I think that part of that is because it is new and that school districts function a little bit different than other governing agencies. So something for us to just keep in mind, that if they do open it up again, I anticipate that that submission window will be earlier.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful. I do think I would be blown away if they kept us to this list of projects for 5 years. I just don't think that that's feasible in any realistic way. So assuming that, I would say maybe we can even build into our budget process some thinking about our capital outlay requests, because given what Deputy Superintendent Holliday says, I think that's right. And because there is a rhythm to what happens in the summer, I would imagine that would be the time for the board to be involved in thinking about capital outlay projects each year. Okay, anything else on this? Any final thoughts? Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your work. Okay, we will go ahead and move on to our third presentation, which is ESS West, Substitute Services. Welcome, Deputy Superintendent Salazar.
Good evening, Board President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Griffin. Thank you for having us this evening. Jeanette Fonseca, the Executive Human Resources Director, will be presenting some information about the agreement between Santa Fe Public Schools and ESS West. The purpose of our presentation tonight is to provide information regarding the requested changes to the agreement. We'll also be providing information about the services provided by ESS West and discuss next steps. We will also like to recommend a study session for further review of metrics and processes moving forward. With that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Fonseca.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm just a little taller. Good evening, Board President Noble, members of the board, Dr. Griffin. Thank you for having us this evening. And I'll be going over the next slides. The purpose of this presentation is to provide information regarding requested changes to the agreement, provide information about the services provided, discuss next steps, and recommend, oh, I'm sorry, am I repeating the same thing? I'm so sorry. Okay, requested changes to the agreement. Remove the automatic renewal language. Change contract termination from 90 days to 60 days. Increase the pay and bill rates for substitute teachers, aides, library assistants, and secretaries. Funding for services for fiscal year 2026 and 2027. Overview of services provided by ESS West. The purpose of this agreement is to provide Santa Fe Public Schools with substitutes services when various school site staff members are absent, such as teachers, education assistants, secretaries, or library assistants. The agreement provides support to our students and administrators when team members are absent for different reasons. This partnership began in June of 2023, and the current number of active substitutes with ESS West is 239. Overview of the absence reasons. We have 42.6% for Santa Fe Public Schools vacancies, 23.9% for sick leave, 12.7% for professional leave, 12% for personal leave, 2.9% for FMLA, 2.6% for administrative leave, and other leave is 3.3%. Other leave consists of jury duty, workers' comp, bereavement leave, such as those absences, for a total of 26,092 for 25-26. And our next steps is to schedule a study session, possibly begin the request for a proposal of RFP process, monitor metrics weekly, so that we're constantly monitoring vacancies and fill rates on a weekly basis. And we're going to continue to work on filling current district vacancies, which is also having a reorganization of the Human Resources Department. Okay, and if there's any questions for us.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Fonseca. Questions from the board? Board Member Blea.
Thank you, President Noble. So on page 3, requested changes to the agreement. Are these like amendments in process right now, or are these things that aren't going to come in until March?
They're requested right now.
Board President Noble, Board Member Blea, these changes are to our current contract. Sorry. And so these go into effect now for our current contract. And so you'll see you had requested from General Counsel that we were able to negotiate the the automatic renewal for that to be removed. And then he was also able to negotiate from 90 days to 60 days, which is very helpful.
Oh, very cool. So thanks, Josh. Appreciate that.
And I would just point out, we do have this on our contracts over $60,000 on our consent agenda with the updated language that is outlined on this slide. Looks like our general counsel is confirming that. Okay. So yeah, we have the new contract on the consent tonight. Okay, other questions? Go ahead.
Thank you, President Noble. I appreciate seeing these changes to the agreement. Maybe the plan is to dig into the numbers a little bit more at the study session. Do you know off the top of your head what we're paying our substitute teachers right now?
Board President Noble, Member Bose, we can get those numbers for you. We can provide those numbers at a future date.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna have a discussion about a future study session, there's lots and lots of stuff that I would like to see happen during that with lots of numbers. Thank you.
Yeah, and I was just gonna show, if you want to scroll on the document, there's a pricing page. Oh, the superintendent's got a hard copy here too. No, that's probably easier. Thank you. Let's see, I also had questions. Did we hear that, could we hire? I mean, if we, what we talked about once before, and I won't go too deep because I think we do want a study session, and just on that, I would say superintendent and team, you know, figure out when you want to do it, and let's just get it in the schedule, in the mix. That can be at really your discretion as to when you're ready and it feels good. We know that some folks, and I've heard anecdotally, decided not to substitute for the district anymore when we made this transition because they had to go work for ESS. If we were to take it back in-house or move with a different contractor, would we lose some of those people? Is there any sort of non-compete thing about hiring the folks who are substitutes under the ESS contract right now?
There is some language in the current contract and some timeframes that we would need to abide to. Definitely things we can bring up and dive into in our study session, but we'll have that information for you.
Okay, and obviously, I think, you know, there's been some, I think, clear expression of will from this board of trying to move to a system that serves us better, and we talked about how we would transition and not throwing the baby out with the bathwater and leaving classes uncovered more so. You know, there's a lot to this, so I would say that thinking about that, some of those transitions and the humans, frankly, who are doing the substitute teaching work, and how we get the people who want to do it again or willing and really figure out the system that works best, that is often, and we heard some about the communities around schools that work most effectively for bringing in substitutes. They are often people that have a relationship with that school, maybe are even in the neighborhood, that sort of thing. So I think it'll be a welcome study session, and there's a lot to it as we look to make this transition and use our money in more effective ways to fill the vacant classrooms in our schools. Board Member Blea.
Thank you, President Noble. So on page 5 and the 42% because of vacancies, in the study session, because I'm sure we can't get a breakdown now, will the study session kind of show the distribution of those vacancies throughout the district?
We can get that for you. So that's where we have long-term subs in classrooms because we haven't been able to hire teachers. So we can show that across the district. Is
Right.
that what you?
Yeah, it's like, is it disproportionate on the south side? That's kind of what I'm wondering.
Okay, yes.
Vice President Bozay.
Thank you, President Noble. It seems relevant because it's the beginning of a school year and we just heard a safety presentation, but there were instances last year where I heard of substitutes being in our classrooms that were not prepared to handle lockdowns. And so I am wondering if that process has improved. Like, I'm very familiar with the training the ESS does, but then I'm wondering where that overlaps with the training that we do as a district for our staff and how we're ensuring that everyone that's in our classrooms with our kids are prepared to handle those challenging situations.
Thank you, Board President Noble. Vice President Bosé, that is definitely something that we can bring as well to the study session of how we're helping to train our substitutes alongside our staff.
Thank you.
Anything else on this? Any final thoughts? Okay, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Good work, and we'll keep going. We look forward to the study session. Moving on to our action items, we have our consent agenda with our 5 items here that, you know, again, just to note, under our contracts over 60,000, we do have the ESS contract as amended to approve here. Any questions, anything to be considered separately? Go
Pres-
ahead, Vice President Bozay.
President Noble, just to note, that is not an additional contract, it's a replacement of what we already approved. Okay, thank you.
General Counsel, can you
Or-
help?
Maybe we didn't approve it, it was just in our budget, and this is the actual contract.
Board President Noble, board members, Board Member Bozay. As we talked about a few board meetings ago, there was the automatic renewal. So basically, that contract was automatically renewed. And so between that time and now, our team has worked with ESS West to, talk about some of these concerns that the board has. And what we were able to do was to amend essentially the contract that we're currently under, and that's what's before you today with those terms there, in addition to the increase in pay rates for those subs. So it's an amendment to the contract that we're already under, if that makes
Okay,
sense
thank
to
you.
you.
And then there's this world where what if we hadn't approved the budget for an automatically renewing contract? But anyway, we're here now and we have a better contract. Any other questions? Or is there a motion on the consent agenda?
I move approval of the consent agenda.
A second.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. Board Member Blair with the second. Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or otherwise? Okay, we've approved the consent agenda. Thank you all very much. Moving on to action item B, this is threatened or pending litigation, NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1H7, authorizing legal counsel to proceed as discussed in executive session regarding the Martinez versus the State of New Mexico et al., consolidated with Yazzie versus State of New Mexico et al. We need a motion,
I move to authorize as stated.
as discussed in executive session.
Correct.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or otherwise? Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to action item C, a second reading and approval of amended policy 310, automated external defibrillators, resuscitation and do not resuscitate orders. Looks like we have the wellness team in the house. Welcome.
Hello, Board President Noble, board members, Superintendent Dr. Griffin, and audience members. We are here to seek your approval for the second reading of amended policy 310. It's a repeal and replace. The purpose for these changes is to put us in compliance with NMAC 660.11 and HB 254, which were both recent legislation requiring us to have AEDs in every school, to have 10% of our school staff CPR certified, among other things relative to cardiac emergency preparedness. I did want to let the board know that we did have to make one change on page 2, lines 21 and 22. We added language to make it clear that we are going to be initiating the drills that are a part of this requirement in the high schools this year and rolling out to the other schools next school year. If it pleases the board, we're still seeking approval for a second reading, but we do understand if this needs to be considered a first reading due to that change.
I don't think it does need to be considered a first reading. Any questions, thoughts on this?
President Noble, I move approval of amended policy 310, automated external defibrillators.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or otherwise? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving on to action item D, first reading of amended policy 537, our cash policy.
Thank you, Board President Noble, board members. This policy is brought as amended coming from the 7% to 9% as we discussed for cash reserve, along with some language that has been stricken through because there's no need for the emergency reserve language. Mr. Granada.
Board President Noble, board members. When you were approving the budget, this item was brought to our attention, and so we did a quick little amendment to the current policy to allow for the increase to the cash policy. And so it's fairly straightforward, and we'll stand for questions.
Thank you very much. And just to be clear, this sets our floor at 5% and our ceiling for cash reserves at 9% of total operational revenue, which is, in essence, the SEG funded portion of our budget, not the operating budget, which is the whole budget. And this is, as Mr. Granada mentioned, exactly what we discussed in terms of basically asking the superintendent to bring a recommendation for a ceiling. This is a first reading. We do see that as 9%. So I don't know if anybody has any issues with that, but otherwise we can have questions or a motion.
I move to approve the first reading.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or otherwise? Thank you very much. Moving on to action item E, Schools of Innovation, Aspen Community School. Welcome, Assistant Superintendent Lopez and Principal Love.
Good evening. Board President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Griffin, thank you for having us today. I'm excited to introduce Bridget Love, the current principal of Aspen Community School. She is the next in line to apply for School of Innovation. Her innovation that she is seeking approval for is to move Aspen towards a planning year, but in total to an IB school in the areas of primary school programming and mid-year programming. And she is here to present her application.
Welcome.
Thank you, Superintendent Griffin, Board President Noble, board members, community. I'm Bridget Love. I'm the principal of Aspen Community School, and I'm really excited to share a vision that has a lot of potential, not just to strengthen Aspen, but also to strengthen the K-12 programming across our district. I know you've had a chance to look at the application. I'm not going to run through it point by point, rather just maybe give you a context and some summary. I'm in my 4th year as the principal at Aspen, and we're a really diverse community, both in age and ability, and I am immensely proud of our school. I believe truly we have one of the most talented and dedicated staffs in the district. I believe that our kids have big dreams and that they're really capable of reaching big goals. That's not in question. But we have had enrollment challenges in recent years, and that has opened up discussion about bringing more families to Aspen. And it's also brought us an opportunity to think creatively about the needs of our community, but then also the needs of our entire school district. And just to be warned, I'm going to say the word opportunity like 19 more times, so get ready for that. So this proposal grew out of conversation with district leaders, but also with Aspen staff as we really reflected on the future and the realities that we're facing. Those reflections about what we want Aspen to be, staff consistently described a school that meets the needs of our current community members. But they also talked about expanding opportunities in arts, expanding opportunities in languages, preparing students to think critically, and really meeting our children as whole children. So as we started shaping and looking at these ideas, the IB program, which really prioritizes connection, curiosity, creating global thinkers, it started to seem like a really good fit. We also recognize that we have a wonderful partner right down the street from us, Mandela, which is a much sought after and already very high achieving and successful a secondary program. And so we started to think about how together we could build on the district's existing investment and commitment to IB education and really start to serve more families who are seeking this educational experience and strengthen. I think it gives us a really good opportunity when we think about to strengthen student enrollment and retention across the district, particularly for families that are looking outside Santa Fe Public Schools for that niche educational experience, for something unique. We can maybe capture their attention. And bring them back to our district, which is where I think they belong. So rather than competing with each other as schools, the idea is to leverage both of our campus's unique strengths and to expand that opportunity for families and build that strong, sustainable IB pathway K through 12. So this opportunity to grow, along with bringing a really world-class instructional framework to our existing Aspen community, has what led us to submitting this application to be a school of innovation. And what we're requesting tonight is approval to begin a year of planning and preparation, which we are hoping will finish with Aspen certifying as an IB primary years program for K-5 and a middle years program for 6 through 8 within the next 3 years. The planning year would focus on preparing our teachers through really high-quality professional learning, engaging our school community and families across the district about this vision for expanding IB, and building that strong collaborative relationship with Mandela. We know that questions remain. There's a lot of them. Particularly, I think, regarding the configuration of the middle years program, the NYP, because Mandela already has a well-established program, right? But these decisions are primary to be addressed in this next year of planning and this next year of collaboration with Principal Grillo and other stakeholders, including our leadership teams and parents. So my application does contain an initial estimated budget. Since I turned the document in, I've had a chance to consult with the IB program and update and refine the first year budget, which actually brings us in lower than what my estimation is. I do have copies of that updated budget available for you after the meeting. And it also offers a 3-year projection of estimated budget for the total certification process. So I guess at this heart, I do think this is a proposal about opportunity. It's giving more students, specifically our Aspen students, access to an internationally recognized education, but it's also about strengthening Aspen, but expanding the opportunities across Santa Fe Public Schools. And we're excited, and really, and the more that we talk about it as a school, we get more excited. And when we have started bringing this to parents and some word has gotten out, parents are excited. So I do think that Aspen is uniquely positioned to help grow the district's IB vision, and I really look forward to exploring that opportunity together. So thank you for your consideration, and I can stand for questions.
Thank you very much. Board Member Bland.
Thank you, President Noble. Oh, you had me at hello, but so this is the kind of thinking that I've talked with superintendent about it and other board members about, actually having pathways from elementary to a high school and joining geographic areas to kind of make sense to where there's common programming all the way through from, littles all the way to high school. And this kind of visioning is exactly what we need. So thank you for this, and I really appreciate it.
Vice President Bozay.
Thank you, President Noble. Wow. I got teary in the same way that I did when I heard the Gonzalez proposal. You started something, it's contagious, it's exactly what we hoped it would be all of those years ago when we talked about it during reimagining. So we know that there are really passionate educators in our schools. We have beautiful facilities, and it's like, what's the missing piece? And when you all, it's not about us. When you all can find the thing that gets you excited and inspired, and that will catch on like wildfire in a good way, not the bad kind of way. But but that's the kind of environment that we want to create for our kids. And so I'm just so grateful that you have grabbed onto this. You're absolutely right. You have a great partner down the street. And I see this as an incredible opportunity for all of our community.
Okay, well, I realize this is going to be a tough vote, but I will also say that I am very pleased to see this. I'm really thrilled to hear about the engagement of the school community and how those conversations are progressing there. You know, as I think many in this room know, we talked about the Schools of Innovation process. It came out of the reimagining process, and the idea really is about some organic engagement, desire, and as well as expertise that will do these Schools of Innovation with the school community. So I really appreciate that. A couple nuts and bolts questions. Would this school year be the first year?
That's right.
Okay, great. And there is, I would say, not a giant budget being proposed, and Principal Love talked about it going down a little bit. Superintendent, would this be something we might consider as use for our cash reserves, or does it roll into the existing budget? How do you see that playing?
Both ways. So we do have in our GEO bond, if there's any capital projects that are needed for Aspen to become an IB school, we did have money for Schools of Innovation earmarked for that, as well as some of our cash reserves specifically for the staff training.
Great, thank you. So we're very likely not looking at a budget adjustment to roll this in. And I'm wondering about, and I heard K-5 is primary and 6-8 is sort of the middle grades. I'm hoping you'll say a little bit more about how the interface works with 7th and 8th grade, and just also to say that in the reimagining, there was also the middle schools focus initiative that came out actually, we worked very hard to say middle grades. And one of the concrete things that was knocked around a bunch was, can we expand the IB offerings in 7th and 8th grades, where Mandela has, I think, a giant application pool and never the slots in terms of what families are desiring. So just wondering how we see 7 and 8 working with Mandela, because obviously Mandela then continues to be our IB high school. So how those middle grades interface is something I imagine will be explored, but I'd love to hear any additional thoughts you want to share about that.
I mean, I think that is going to be a primary question of this exploratory year, is what that configuration is going to look like. And that a big impetus for expanding the middle years program is exactly what you said, which is to address the fact that we have, what did you say, Randy? We had 140 middle school parents on the wait list as of today to get into Mandela's middle years program. We don't have room for 140 kids at Aspen, but we have room for a large portion of that. And so hopefully, as we explore this, not only can we find the right configuration for the middle years program, because we will get there, but that also opens up the opportunity to expand our high school IB offerings and to imagine Mandela as a school that can graduate a larger class. And so that's going to be a real big focus, that continuum, how we're going to do this collaboratively and really think through this being a K-12 initiative is going to be a really big focus of our collaboration.
Wonderful. I have chills. Thank you. I'm going to get weepy. And I just want to say thank you very much, Principal Grillo, for being here to I assume, support this application of Aspen and what they want to do here. So anything else from the board?
President Noble, I move approval of the School of Innovation application for Aspen Community School.
Beautiful. I'll second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or otherwise? Thank you very much. Good
Thank
luck.
you, guys. Thank you.
Okay, well, that's exciting. Moving swiftly along to Roman numeral 10 on our agenda, our board discussion and possible action. We will start with action item A, first reading of new policy 547, cybersecurity. Board Member Blea, I know you and Board Member Beta worked on this. I don't know if you want to talk or if we want the superintendent or anybody. It looks like Mr. Hagley, who's deputy assistant
Good.
specialist.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Griffin. I'm Michael Hagley, Chief Information and Strategy Officer. And I would just by means of introduction, Policy 547 establishes a district-wide framework for cybersecurity and information security. It sets expectations for protecting district systems and sensitive information through areas such as access management, data protection, network and device security, vendor oversight, cybersecurity awareness, business continuity, and incident response. Much of this policy formalizes cybersecurity practices and safeguards that are already in place across the district, but it also provides us a clear framework to identify areas where we can improve and strengthen our processes and protections. And I would like to recognize and thank board members Blea and Abeta for their collaboration in developing this policy. So tonight we're presenting Policy 547 for first reading and welcome the board's feedback.
Thank you, Chief. Board Member Blea, do you want to add anything here?
Yeah, I do. First of all, I want to thank the superintendent for her leadership through this process and kind of guiding me to the right people. And I have to say, after meeting with the right people, there are a lot of really right people in this district. Patricia's just flipping awesome. She knows a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, I just can't believe how much and how willing they are to say, this is how we're doing it, this is what we're doing. Not getting into the details to give away the, the details or anything like that, but to actually say, we're on top of this and we're doing this. So I really have to say, later on, we'll talk a little bit about AI, but meeting with Deputy Superintendent Holliday and Michael and Patricia has been probably the better parts of my day over the last few weeks from a professional perspective, because this is a very well-run group. And so I just want to thank them for all their efforts and all their attention to all this stuff, and also putting up with my devil's advocacy sometimes. But it's been a great process, and so thank you, Superintendent, and thank you to staff for all your diligent work on this and how much work, and Josh too, because Josh has been a huge guidance for getting this stuff done. So I just wanted to say thank you, because it has been one of the bright spots of my career, really, is to get to work with these people.
Thank you. Okay, this is a first reading. And I would just say I appreciate that this, to me, reads like a policy, and I know that there was a lot of talk about what goes in the policy and what goes in the AR, and this looks like a reasonably strong policy, and I appreciate, I'm going to go ahead and say Mr. Hagley, because I know your name, I'm not going to remember your title, saying, this is something that I know we've been pretty good at for a long time, and I appreciate Ms. Nordby and the tech team's work on that for many, many years. And for my part, I would say I think it is a good idea to call it out formally in a policy for any number of reasons. But ultimately, I also really want to underline and say we have been doing a lot of these things. And as echoing Board Member Blea, we have an amazing team, and we have had over the years study sessions and presentations on some of our cybersecurity and how things work. And I have always felt that we've been good at this, and I do like the board formalizing the intent and with the clarity here, the protections that we're looking at. Any other comments, questions, Board Member or Vice President Bose?
No, I don't have anything to add. Thank you for this work. It's really clear. I think it's important that it be in a policy, and thank you to all the staff for supporting that.
Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the first reading.
I will second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or otherwise? Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to our standard operating procedure, board member initiated policy development. We do have this written out, and it was provided in our packet. This came out of our discussion at the retreat. Some of it arising from Board Member Blaya's leadership on the cybersecurity policy. I think it's pretty good. I do want to say, for the board members looking at this, I think this is what we discussed, with maybe one exception. On number 7, we say the initial draft of the proposed policy is expected to be complete within 30 calendar days of board approval. I believe I said within 30 days, and I just want to clarify that actually my intention on this one was that we would get from the superintendent what is outlined in number 6, the anticipated timeline, staff time, and resource requirements, fiscal impact, potential impact on student outcomes, alignment with the district's strategic framework and board priorities, legal or regulatory considerations, and any other operational implications. My intention was that that information come within 30 days, not that the policy be fully developed within 30 days, because I think that's maybe wildly ambitious in some cases, and I personally would like us to have more flexibility on how long we work on policies, even in our stated understanding as to how we do this.
President Noble,
Yes.
I just would like to echo agreement with you around that time frame. And, we can be timely, but good policy can take longer than 30 days. So
So I am going to suggest a couple rhetorical changes here. And just to say for anyone paying attention here and the thousands watching, what we're talking about is, that's a shout out to former board member Maureen Cashman. She used to always talk about the thousands watching. But what we're talking about is a board member, and we'll see it in action tonight on item F under this Roman numeral on the AI policy, where a board member will ask for it to be placed on the agenda. We will ask for 3 board members to say, yes, we want that policy developed, and then we will ask for 2 board members to go ahead, as Board Member Blaya and Board Member Abeta did on the cybersecurity policy, to develop the new policy. And then that we get to this sticky number 6 part, where the superintendent will advise us on timelines, resources, impact on student outcomes, alignment with priorities, and all the things. So what I would like to suggest is on number 6 that it read as such: the superintendent shall advise the board in around 30 calendar days regarding the anticipated timeline for completion, staff time, etc. And that number 7, unless otherwise advised by the superintendent due to the complexity of the proposed legal review or competing operational, I think we just eliminate number 7. So that there are 7 in total. Number 8 becomes number 7. Is that about right? Do we want to see this again with the changes, or are we tracking reasonably well? And
President Noble,
yeah, go ahead.
I do wonder, I think our intent here was to be kind of timely with keeping things moving along. And I'm open to it being 30 days, but I wonder if there's a shorter time frame by which the board could be updated on the anticipated time frame than 30 days. And I'm open to it being 30 days, but
I mean, I would say, and we'll hear from the superintendent, if it's not 30 days, it's going to be at the next meeting, which is 14 days, which to me is real tight. But superintendent, please go ahead.
No, I really appreciate this conversation. Thank you, President Noble, board members. I agree that 30 days to be able to come back with a timeline is, if we can do it quicker than that, we will, absolutely. If there's a board meeting within the 2 weeks, we will update the board then. We don't always have 2 meetings in a month, so keeping the 30 days in there gives us a little bit of wiggle room as well.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. I'm in agreement then with eliminating 7 and just having 7.
Anything further on this? Okay, I'll go ahead and move approval of our standard operating procedure, board member initiated policy development as amended and discussed tonight.
I'll second.
Thank you, Board Member Blay with the second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or otherwise? Thank you. The motion carries. Moving swiftly along. Now, we pushed on these 2 items, C and D, last meeting because we didn't have Dr. Gonzalez, and now we don't have Board Member Abeta. But we do need to do this at some point, so I don't know, what's the pleasure of the board on items C and D?
President Noble, I mean, I assume that you went to the audit meeting today.
Well, funnily enough, I didn't because I
Oh,
had a conflict,
okay,
but
well, I mean, we have a CRC meeting next week, so I guess we stay status quo until we make an official motion.
I think that's right. All right, so it sounds like maybe we wait for Board Member Abeta and we keep the status quo in the meantime, as we have been. Okay. Thank you. We'll keep that C and D on the agenda for the next time. Moving on to board discussion and possible action, item E, student data privacy. Vice President Sarah Bozet.
Thank you, President Noble. This is on the agenda tonight just to follow with the standard operating procedure that we just moments ago outlined. I did verbally state this at our last meeting on July 30th, and the board was in agreement to move ahead with the data privacy policy because we are all very much aware now how important it is to have something like that on the books. My hope, and the superintendent can correct me, but we did talk about this with our constituents on July 30th, and we were given a really strong, robust framework, and my understanding is that staff has already been working on this since board gave agreement. So we were a little bit functioning parallel to creating or adopting our standard operating procedures, but my sincere hope is that we can bring a first read at the meeting on August 27th. Does that sound right?
Thank you, Board President Noble. Vice President Bose, yes. We have been working sort of in tandem already on this policy and are very hopeful to be able to bring it to the board at our next board meeting.
Great. And I have very flexible availability next week and the week after to work with staff. So please let me know. I believe that Board Member Blair was going to work with me. So I'm available and happy to make this as good as it can be for the first read. Thank you.
And just to confirm, Board Member Blair, you're up for that.
Oh, absolutely. No. And I'm flexible too, so whatever.
Okay. This?
No.
Yeah. I mean, this one's funny because it doesn't even feel like we need a vote, but we have 2 board members willing to work on it. It's been worked on by staff. I'm in agreement. Dr. Gonzalez doesn't look super mad about it. So we'll go ahead and look for a motion to move forward on a student data privacy policy.
President Noble, I move that we continue our work on the student data privacy policy with a plan to bring a first reading on August 27th.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or otherwise? Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to item F, an AI policy. Board Member Blaya.
Thank you, President Noble. So yeah, this, again, the boots on the ground are well ahead of this. They've been working on this for, not necessarily the policy, but on the framework for governing and working with AI. A lot of work has been done, a lot of really well thought out kind of how the guardrails work and what are those guardrails and what is AI, and a lot of those distinguishing characteristics have been discussed. I do ask that we do codify it into policy, um, only because without the guardrails, I think it can easily lose track of what AI is supposed to do and not do for our students and for our teachers and for our community. So um, I strongly think that the framework's already there. The boots on the ground already know what to do. And I think this can be done. So I propose that we move forward with an AI policy.
I agree with you. I agree with Juan. I met with the Santa Fe Public Schools Tech Department last year about what they were doing with AI, and I was really impressed. So, yes. But we do need a policy, I think.
And President Noble, I think along those lines, I think Dr. Gonzalez would be a partner on this.
Great. And did you have a comment, Vice President Rose?
No, I just wasn't sure if we were motioning and seconding. I'm giving thumbs up in agreement.
Okay, I think we've got an agreement of more than 3, plus we've got a partner. So now we're looking for motioning, seconding, all that stuff we do.
I move to approve going forward with an AI policy.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or otherwise? Okay.
President Noble.
Yes,
Board
go ahead,
members.
Superintendent.
If it would please the board, I would like to recommend that the AI policy be brought in September 10th, so that way the same staff is used on both of these, and so we can really focus first on the student data privacy for the August 27th, with the AI policy perhaps on September 10th. Thank you.
Yes, and we just be careful of a rolling quorum, given that you have 3 board members in the conversation. But so there's a little bit of, yeah. Okay. Anything else on that? I did get a reminder text from Ms. Bahar. Dr. Gonzalez, I think you need to reappoint. We need to reappoint your folks on the audit and CRC for this year officially. Or do you want to do that at this stage, or? We can come back to it now. They're your appointments. This is action item D on our agenda. Just to be very clear, this is our community committee appointments. And I'm sorry, I just rolled through that with C and D being the same, but actually D is up to you. So we might as well do that if you're prepared at this point.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm prepared. So you want me to name the?
I want you to make a motion and name maybe 3 people to
Okay.
2 committees.
I move that, excuse me. Sorry, I'm fighting a cold right now. I move that excuse me, Joanne Johnson become a member of the audit committee, and that Dylan Weller and Simon Mont are on the CRC. CRC.
I'll second.
Can't talk.
Okay. We've got a motion and a second. I'm sure we could get you some water. Any further discussion on these? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have approved those community committee appointments. Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. Now I will go ahead to item G, NMSBA call for 2027 legislative resolutions. Ultimately, I hope you all have seen the emails from NMSBA, but we are now in the universe where we're calling for legislative resolutions. And given, I'll do my best, Dr. Gonzalez, to save your voice while the mint gets going. But ultimately, this is a time when school boards can submit resolutions to shape the New Mexico School Boards Association's priorities for the legislative session, which is 2027 legislative session. session, a 60-day session. Resolutions need to address issues with statewide impact, and the process is we would need to approve and adopt them by August 27th by our next meeting, in order to get them to NMSBA by September 8th. And just to say, this board has in the past done a, I think, tweak to that in when we designate 2 board members to recommend legislative resolutions. So ultimately, the deadline is Tuesday, September 8th to NMSBA. For the full board to talk about it, we'd need to do it at our next meeting, August 27th. Anything you want to add, Dr. Gonzalez, as you've been our NMSBA representative and in the room when they do their legislative resolutions?
President Noble, I think that's what you stated is fine. It's exactly what we do and what's needed at the, yep, it went off.
Okay, so, Board Member Blaya, as our newest member, ultimately, how this would go, I mean, I think because we are at a rapid turnaround, as if, any of us wanted to bring a resolution or even propose one with the substance of what it would do, let's put it on the agenda for our next board meeting, talk about it. If it's drafted, great, we could look at it, but ultimately, obviously, we have the timeline here, and this is how we work with our statewide school boards association. Okay, anything else on board discussion and possible action? I have one in the manner that we've traditionally done where, if we bring something up, I'm looking for a couple other board members to validate this, as we used to say, nod yes, so that we don't direct the superintendent individually as board members. But I'm very interested, again, given the uptick in ICE activity in this community, on an update on the resolution that passed and the community liaison work that we've embedded at all the schools. I would love to hear an update on that for the current school year, and anything we can glean from the folks that are doing this work in the schools, because really the intention of the structure here was to listen to our communities, to have that knowledge, wisdom, and request or identification of what resources are needed come from the communities, rather than from some top-down way. And again, given what we've seen in this community, a lot of people have been affected. It's lit up on social media, and it's a very, again, scary and difficult time for many, many families. So how we're doing the work and making sure that we have a focus on that and on that listening, and that we keep talking about it, feels pretty important to me. So,
President Noble.
Yes, go ahead.
Verbal head nodding for the record.
Okay, lots of head nodding. I think we have 4 of us ready for that. So that would be great to have in some fashion in at the next meeting, ideally. Go ahead, Vice President Bozay.
Thank you, President Noble. Just a brief point of discussion, which I probably could have said during board announcements. I had 3 kids who started school last Friday, and at my youngest school, there were lots of changes. There was a new principal. He had 3 of his 4 teachers were new of his core teachers. There was actually a new art teacher as well. So lots of new teachers, and the environment back to school night felt incredible. Very, very positive. The teachers were all really, really excited to be there. He's having a great time. Buses are running smoothly. I got quick responses when I emailed the transportation department. Just no complaints. I know that it's hard. It's a little rocky. It's not perfect, but it's visible that everyone's working hard. And I just thank you to all the staff that make that possible, that are responsive and caring, and for all of us that just keep saying, hang on, it'll smooth itself out. Hang in there. So cheers to a wonderful school year for all of our kiddos and all of our educators that make this community so wonderful. Thank you.
I second. Yes, it's been great. to go back to school. All right, anything else on board discussion, possible action? Okay, moving on to advanced planning. There is as Vice President Bose noted, a CRC meeting next week. Any changes looking at advanced planning, Superintendent?
President Noble, there are no changes.
Okay, I also want to thank Board Member Blea for chairing the audit committee today, as I did have a conflict. And we have begun our audit process, and so, you know, best wishes to the finance team. And we do have a new audit firm this year, so woohoo, off we go. Our next audit committee meeting will be on September 10th. All right. If there's nothing else on advanced planning, we will go ahead and adjourn for the evening. Thank you all very much.
Too fast. Oops, thank you. Actually became homework.